William really doesn't want to have anything to do with him. A parent is slightly different. You know, he loves his son, but he's very hurt by what his son has done. And there doesn't seem to be any move of rapprochement. He says, yeah, he wants to see his father. He made that silly comment a few weeks ago that he doesn't know how long his father has got. I mean, you don't say things like that in public. So he's got a lot of ground to make up. And the ground is with a capital A, apology. And you've got to mean it. But at the moment, his father won't see him because his father sees him, that anything he says will be all over the airways, all over the internet in a nanosecond. And at the moment, he can't trust him.
But you were famously sorting out these kind of issues when you were working for Her Majesty.
We didn't have issues like that.
But you had to negotiate what would look good, what would look bad, how to kind of present things. This would cause a massive headache to you if you were in the opposition.
It would cause a massive headache because you just don't roll over having been rubbished for such a long time over a wide platform. You know, Netflix has got millions of listeners. Harry Spare book sold millions. Oprah has 1 million viewers. To rubbish the royal family to that extent and then expect everybody to roll over and say, oh, you know, kiss and make up, you know, all is forgiven. There's an equation to this. And the other half of the equation is Mrs. Wales, Mrs. Sussex.
Should we be surprised that Meghan Markle has joined a whole long list of celebrities by bringing out a rosé wine?
I don't think we should be surprised at anything she does. And as far as bringing out a wine, it's going to sell for something like 20 quid or $28 US. It's a lot of money. And if you're going to go into that sort of business, you've got to produce a lot of wine to make money. If her jam is anything to go by, it's going to be sold out in about 10 minutes. How many bottles is she producing? Who's producing it? She's not a wine expert. So, you know, why go into something that you probably know nothing about?
That's a really interesting point. I mean, we'll get onto this in a little bit later about how her products have they actually sold out and how many, you know, wines and jams she's actually making. But this is, I'm not surprised that she's gone into winemaking because if you are a celebrity like Meghan Markle is now, that's what everybody's doing.
Well, it's very appealing to celebrities to do it because if it's produced en masse, exactly as you mentioned, you can make a lot of money out of it. George Clooney sold his, I think, Casamigos tequila one, I think for $1 billion.
Yeah, but she's not George Clooney.
Of course, and that's going to be the problem. People will note that. So, look, I can understand why she's gone in there. It certainly fits with everything else she's putting out there. But we've touched on the key element, which is until these things are produced in very, very large quantities, it's not going to make the kind of money that really makes it worthwhile. And I understand this time around when she's done the restock, she'd increased the quantities by tenfold, but we don't know what the original number was. So I still don't know what numbers we're working in here.
Well, there's lots of internet sleuths. If you go online, and there's lots of people who are claiming that they've tried to buy some of these new products. The wine will come out on July the 1st, but the new jams and the new spreads, as we call them, are now on the website. And there are people that claim that they've tried to buy some and they were sold out immediately, suggesting that these were very, very low amounts of stock.
Well, the jam was something like 100, wasn't it? And by the time you've given your friends most of them, there's not much left to sell. So, of course, people going online trying to buy will be disappointed, if indeed they are disappointed.
And I was reading some interesting articles from PR experts talking about this because obviously, look, I'm not a branding expert. I don't know what works with the consumers, but I found it interesting when you compare it. You know, obviously there's that mentality of I must have it because it's selling out. It's like when we see a queue and you want to join it because you think there's obviously something worthwhile here. The problem with this is you're talking about stock that you need to replenish in your fridge because it's things that are going to run out. So if you're not able to buy this expensive jam that's, even if it's wonderful, you are going to find a different type. And then you might get stuck on that other brand, particularly if it costs less money. So in that regard, I don't really understand the long-term strategy of continually selling out of essentially supermarket goods, fancy supermarket goods. But it's the kind of thing you can get at any supermarket. So why would you continually wait months and months on end for these new restocks if you can get it elsewhere?
Interesting thing on the jam, you mentioned the jam. There's a lady in the States called Donna Collins. She's a world expert in jam making, and she's won over 40 championships in making jam. I'm not sure how these championships work, but she says it's not jam, it's spread, because it has no consistency to it. And if Meghan really wants to get into the market of food, you've got to do your research properly. Don't listen to other people. Do your own research. and work on it and see what does sell and what doesn't sell. Don't come up with an idea, oh, I'm going to do jam. I'm going to give half of them to my mates and sell the other half, and then disappoint people who want them. You've really got to do your research. And if you're going to sell, you've got to buy in bulk. And that's taking a risk on a product you don't actually know much about.
And you're talking about a website also that it's been live for a couple of months now, but if the first batch sold out within an hour and the second one was also a similar time, you're talking about a site that has really only had active products on it for, 4 hours in total out of 2 months. That's not a very good user experience. So again, I don't really see the long-term strategy. It's obviously good that they're selling out in terms of its popularity, but I think that would be a frustrating user experience in the long term.
Selling out is a selling point. Because people think, oh, this must be terrific. That's why it's going so quickly. But as you rightly say, what's the quantity that they are actually selling? What is the quantity that they're actually buying? It's very tiny.
Well, there is a suggestion that you talk about the restocking, because she's not bringing out the spread, not a jam. It's like this raspberry spread. She's not restocking that. So that was her signature product. That was the one that, my jam, everyone knows my jam is my jam. That was the thing. That doesn't exist anymore. She hasn't restocked it.
I wonder what the story is behind that too, because she spoke about it on one of the podcasts she did recently. She said that she wanted it to be the kind of thing that people always have in their fridge. But again, that's not a situation that's tenable if it's not available to buy. So I don't really understand that goes against what she herself has said about her signature product.
But weren't the jams numbered? They were a limited product.
Yes, the initial ones. I think there were 50 to begin with when she did the first soft launch and sent them to all of her friends.
So this over 5 years since Megxit, but this firmly places her in the kind of celebrity product arena with other stars. As we mentioned, so many. Like Kylie Minogue has a lovely rosé wine. She's now in that category, isn't she?
Celebrity with a small C, I would have thought.
It's definitely that category. I think we've seen it more and more from her Instagram. We've spoken about this on the show in the way that she's presenting it with those curated videos, and it's very much that celebrity influencer wellness space now. It does feel that it's worlds away from her royal days, but to be honest, I don't think she minds. It doesn't appear that she's thinking about that royal connection in terms of how they might view it.
I was quite pleased. There's a story over the weekend in the Sunday Times, quite an in-depth, well-briefed, I think, story about where Prince William is at the moment. These are the kind of things we've been hearing for a while, that he wants to do things his own way, but he's obviously respecting everything that his father is doing. He's gone through lots of incredible training, and he's concentrating, not trying to spread himself too thin, concentrating on many of his wonderful charities and events. This week he's lots of climate talks that he's been attending this week. But there was one comment in here, and I'm just going to read it out, and I want to get your thoughts. This was from a source that I spoke to the Sunday Times, and they said, it used to be that the family stuff with Harry was taking up a lot of space in his head. It was a very close relationship, and he was very upset, but he's not letting it get to him anymore. It's a challenge, it's sad, but it's a much healthier space for him to be at. I like that. I like that it appears that William has just gone, I've got to move on with my important job.
Well, it reminded me of, I think it was back in 2020, right before the Sandringham summit. There was that article came out saying that William was no longer he'd had his arms around Harry their whole life, and he no longer was going to do that. What happened afterwards, no one really could have expected how bad things would probably get between the Sussexes and the rest of the family following that summit, and as you've mentioned, all of the Netflix things, the memoir, everything that came afterwards. But that was 5 years ago. So there have been things that would have inflamed that situation, and being able to let go of that rage would have been difficult when it was being provoked again so often. But the fact that he's reached that point now in any breakup of any type, you do need to reach that point to be in a healthier headspace. And I think that after everything that's happened over the last 12 months, it seems he's now finally able to potentially just not be provoked by that